Hey folks, everything new under the sun. The ancient book of Enoch. Now, this is a book that Ken Johnson put together, just like the book of Ezra from the Apocrypha. He's added some commentary to it, on top of which is found, obviously, in the ancient book of Enoch. Now, for this one, of course, it's about Enoch's visions and prophecies. Now, a little primer. Enoch was the seventh generation from Adam, the first man God created, Adam. So the seventh generation from Adam. From Scripture, we know Enoch lived 365 years, and then he was translated or raptured. So Genesis 5:21-24 says, "And Enoch lived 60 and 5 years, and begat Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God after he begat Methuselah 300 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him." So I want to take a look at, I've got another camera going here, and I want to take a look at, so this is the genealogy chart. And so we can see Enoch here, and him living 365 years old, and he begat Methuselah, which is under him, of course. And so in that first millennium, the first 1,000 years from creation, that's where Enoch sits in the timeline of, as spoken of, as written of in the Bible, in Genesis specifically. And again, Enoch was the first raptured of us humans, and we likewise will be raptured at some point. So what we want to do is take a look at the prophecy of 10 weeks out of the book of Enoch. And this is just going to be a real quick primer of the 10 weeks, and Ken Johnson and others go into more depth. But it's also known as the apocalypse of weeks. So we'll go here. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show or present the timeline from Kent Hovind. So let's take a look at this. And again, this is the whole timeline. You can purchase this chart off drdino.com. And of course, here you've got 4000 BC, Adam, 4000 BC at creation, going into Noah, Abraham, and it goes along through the years, 2000 BC, 1000 BC, up to the time of Jesus right there. And then the time of the Gentiles right here, about 2,000 years. And then we get up to where we are today, the year 2000. Of course, it's the year 2022. And then we move into the day of the Lord, or the millennial reign of Christ, which on this chart is then expanded up to this location here, which details the 7-year tribulation and the day of the Lord and the millennial reign of Christ. Let's see, where are we here? Over here. 997 years of great blessing, as Kent Hovind understands the Bible prophecy. So what I want to do is take a look at this as it relates to the prophecy weeks. So let's just put that over there for now. And you'll see that I have the weeks noted here. So I wrote in this chart week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, so that we could get an idea of where we were here. So the prophecy of the 10 weeks. After Enoch, so there's week 1, so from beginning of creation till about 3,225 years before Christ. You can see the 3,000 year mark BC right there. So right about there is where he's talking about there, or where this first week is, rather. It says, after Enoch began to recount from the books, Enoch said, "I wish to tell you about the children of righteousness, Christians, and the elect of the world, and the plant of uprightness, the nation of Israel. I, Enoch, will declare them unto you, my sons, as they appear to me in the heavenly vision, and as I have been told by the word of the holy angels, and have read from the heavenly tablets." Enoch began to recount from the books, and said, and this is where it starts, the prophecy of the 10 weeks. Now, the prophecy of the 10 weeks are, of course, the history of mankind, and in fact, the history, including the millennial reign of Christ, separated into 10 weeks, right up until God completely, finally judges man, and we enter into the complete eternity, the actual eternity and not just the millennial reign of Christ. So week number 1 is from 3925 BC to 3225. So it says, I was born on the 7th day in the first week. So again, you got this first week of time. So second week, 3225 to 2500 BC. And so this is the second week, starting here and going right up to just before the flood. So something happens just before the flood, which causes the flood, causes God to allow the flood to come upon the earth. And that's spoken of in the second week. After me, there will arise in the second week great wickedness and deceit will spring up. So why did God send a flood upon the world? To deal with the wickedness that Enoch is referring to at the bottom there in verse 4 of the chapter 93. The second week, great wickedness and deceit will spring up. Afterwards will be the first end. So he speaks of the flood as an end, and it's the first end. Mankind will be saved. Let me just move over here. You can see at the top right of the page, it will be the first end. Mankind will be saved, but unrighteousness will revive, even though he will make a law for the sinners. So mankind will be saved, and that's through Noah and his family in the flood, in the ark. But unrighteousness will survive. Sin does come through the flood there, and of course is with us up until this day. We then go to the third week, which is basically the flood, or the start just prior to the flood, up until 1825 BC. So the third week, 2500 BC to 1825 BC, and so this is kind of what we're talking about there. And you can see that's the time of Abraham. And again, as we look at this chart here, now we're all the way over. So Enoch was over here. There's Enoch over there, and we spent all this time. Even evil has been building up, and then we have the flood, where God judges the sin of mankind, and then lifespans shorten right away, and then we go all the way down here to Abraham, and so that's where we are right now on the timeline there. So Abraham, again, the week number 3 from the flood to past Abraham there. After that, during the third week, a man, Abraham, you can see him there, will be elected as the plant of righteous judgment, and his posterity will become the plant of righteousness, the nation of Israel forever more. So Abraham and the Jews are enslaved there right up into week 4. And so that moves us to week 4, starting from 1825 before Christ BC to 1125. So the fourth week starts here and goes all the way up to just prior to David. After that, during the fourth week, visions of the holy and righteous God at Mount Sinai will be seen, and a Mosaic law for all generations and an enclosure tabernacle will be made for them. So this is now starting to talk about the temple that will be built. So we move along into the fifth week. You can see the fifth week starts just prior to King David, prior to 1000 BC, and goes right up until 425 years before Christ. Week 5 right there. And so this is the marker for the end of week 5. So right up past Daniel is what we're talking about there. And this is what the book of Kings is talking about, that section in there. So after that, during the fifth week, the house of dominion, Solomon's temple, will be built forever and glorified. So of course David and then King Solomon came and rebuilt the temple right in here. So going on to week number 6, this encompasses the crucifixion of Christ, the life of Christ. So this is an interesting one. After that, in the 6th week, and you can read the text with me there on the right-hand side, all who live in it will be blinded, and their hearts will godlessly forsake wisdom, In it, a man, Jesus, will ascend, and at its close, the house of dominion, Herod's temple, will be burnt with fire, and the whole race of the chosen root of Israel will be dispersed. So this refers to the diaspora, the destruction of the temple, the abomination of desolation, the first example of it. And so it goes past Jesus. So basically, Jesus' death. And that's when it starts talking about AD. That means basically the year of our Lord, and it's based off the death of Jesus Christ. So it goes to AD, let's see, 6 weeks, 80 to 75. Jesus is born. He dies on a cross as, let me scroll over so you can actually see that. There you go. Time of Christ, approximately 6 years BC to 28 AD. So you can see at the very bottom there, 28 AD. So this is where we start counting 2,000 years from 28 AD. This is where I understand it from. This is where he understands it from. There's discussion around 6 BC. Was he born 2 BC, 3 BC, 4 BC? Again, some speculate 6 BC. And so that would put the end of 6,000 years of man at 2028, and that's where that comes from. Add 2,000 to 28 AD, which is the death of Christ, again, which is AD. The clock basically starting from the death of Jesus. Israel is dispersed, that diaspora, and so we go into a time of the Gentiles, right? This is where Israel is dispersed. They are no longer a nation. And we are heading up to the year 2000. But week number 7, so at the very bottom there. After that, in the 7th week, an apostate generation will arise. Their rebellion will manifest in many different ways. At its close, the elect righteous, the Jewish believers, right in there, the Jewish believers of the eternal plant of righteousness will be rewarded with a sevenfold instruction concerning all his creation. Who is there of all the children of men who is able to hear the voice of the Holy One with trembling? Who can think of his thoughts? Or who is there that can behold all the works of heaven? Who could behold the heaven, understand the things of heaven, see his soul and spirit and relate to it, or ascend and see all their ends, and think and do like them? Who is the man who could know what is the breadth and the length of the earth, and to whom has been shown the measure of it, of all of them? Or is there anyone who could discern the length and the height of heaven, what it is founded upon, or could number the stars and know where all the luminaries rest? ? Related to God's omniscience, God's all-knowing and all-powerful. So the 8th week. So now you can see again, I have the 8th week specified here, prior to 1000 AD, and right up. Well, let's see, the 8th week, 975 AD to about 1675 AD. So referring to this week, it says, after that there will be another, the 8th week, that of righteousness, and a sword will be given to it, so it will pass righteous judgment on the oppressors, and sinners will be delivered into the hand of the righteous. During its completion, they will acquire houses through their righteousness, and a house, Protestant Reformation, will be built for honor for the great king forever. So the square bracket items there are of course added by Ken Johnson. So let's go on to the 9th week. So we have the 9th week starting from 1675 AD to about 2375. So you can see that it is actually getting into the millennial reign of Christ there. So again, 1675, prior to the year 2000, obviously, the year 1675, right up until 2375. So the 9th week, it covers the year 2000, and we're in the year 2022. After that, in the 9th week, the righteous judgment will be revealed to the whole world. Ken Johnson adds the reestablishment of the nation of Israel. Now, when was Israel born? 1948. And all the works of the godless will vanish from the earth, and the world will be written down for destruction. Speaking of the Great Tribulation, as Ken Johnson understands it. And all men will look to the path of integrity, beginning of the millennial reign. So this whole week kind of enters into the millennial reign of Christ. So that suggests that we are very, very close, obviously, to getting into the millennial reign of Christ. And I believe absolutely we are. I think 2028 is the basically the end of 6,000 years of man, and that then kicks off the 7-year period, and then the millennial reign of Christ. So going to the 10th week. So the 10th week is this period from 2375 to 3075. After this, in the 10th week, in the 7th part, there will be the great eternal judgment, in which he will judge the watchers, the great eternal heavens. So the watchers are referring to, I believe, the demons, the evil spirits. The great eternal heavens will appear from the midst of the angels. The first heaven will depart and pass away, and a new heaven will appear, and all the powers of the heavens will give sevenfold light forever. After that, there will be many weeks without number forever. So this is kind of after the millennial reign of Christ. So we have the millennial reign of Christ, and then after that period, this basically to eternity, off the end of the chart there, this is complete eternity. It's timeless. There is no time after this. So it goes on, and I'll read this last section here. I guess I didn't move the text over. There's the 9th and the 10th week there for you. Now I tell you, my sons, and show you the paths of righteousness and the paths of violence. I will show them to you again, that you may know what will come to pass. So this is given as a timeline, as an understanding, to give people an understanding of what is to come, a general, again, dating or way to date, or a way to recognize the periods or eras of time up until the millennial reign of Christ, and in fact, eternity itself. It says, and now listen to me, my sons, walk in the paths of righteousness, not in paths of violence, for all who walk in the paths of unrighteousness will perish forever. Now, what I didn't mention originally about the 10 weeks is that each section is 700 years. So 7 times 10 is 7,000 years. So that's what the 10 weeks attempt to portray. 10 periods of 700 years, which cross all those various eras and, of course, important timelines. I still do prefer myself the 7-year, the 6,000 years of man and the millennial reign of Christ, or the 7,000-year timeline as described here, or as shown here on the What on Earth image from Dr. Ken Hovind. I think the 1,000-year periods makes, at least to me, more sense. But that's the way Enoch viewed it in 700-year increments. And so that's how he told it. And I guess that's how that vision was given to him by the angels, as the book of Enoch describes. So it's interesting to kind of line it up, to see where it fits, see where it matches, see where it ends up as it relates to our 6,000, 7,000 year timeline. And it does match up pretty well, generally speaking. So there you go. That's my look at the 10 weeks, the Apocalypse of Weeks by Enoch, and via the book written by Ken Johnson. Definitely check out Ken Johnson and his further detail about this. But I think it's interesting to look at, something to kind of put in your back pocket and just have an understanding about. It does generally agree with the timeline and with other timelines, and with the end of the age as well, although there's obviously a discrepancy there as to when the millennial reign of Christ starts versus the year 2028, which is what many of us believe to be the end of 6,000 years of man, heading into the 7-year, or rather heading into the millennial reign of Christ. The 7-year period comes off the year 2028 around to the year 2021, 2022, specifically the Shemitah year on the Jewish calendar, and their year starts in September 2021 to September 2022, the Shemitah year, kicking off that 7-year period. So the 7-year period could start at any time. So thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of the Apocalypse of Weeks and Enoch in general. Add your comment below, and we can have a discussion about it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.